Hi, everybody. Welcome to Barsha, episode 47 on a queer day with the indescribable Daniel Alexander Jones. Please share. Hit your little hamburger down in the lower left corner. Broadcast to the world. Share with your followers. Do whatever you can. We're going to have a really good show. I'm so happy. Stephen, I see you already there. I'm very excited. I will be inviting everybody, and we will be starting shortly. Meanwhile, I am going to put up Daniel's incredible website on here so everybody can kind of check Daniel out before we start. I hope everybody had a very good holiday week this week. I know I did. And here we go. I am going to put Daniel's incredible website here. Look at us. We're at 4:59. It's so exciting. If somebody pointed out it's EDT. And I've been putting EST, which is not great. We are so close now. I'm getting very excited. Ooh, and we have that nice theme music. All right. Share alike, as they said in school. All right, here we go. Okay. Look at people filing in. It is now 5 o'clock. And you know what that means. It means Barsha. And it is episode 47 on a queer day with the indescribable Daniel Alexander Jones. So please welcome Daniel to the stage. Yay.
Hello.
Listen to that audience clapping. Okay, Daniel, I'm going to sing you a song, which I sing for people with their name in it. Okay, here we go. Where do you go on Mondays when you want to have fun? Well, where can you go on Mondays when your day is done? Fireside chat is where it's at. Our guests are all the best. His whole life is art because it's in his bones. He's got overtones, undertones. He's Daniel Alexander Jones. Yes, he is. Help me in welcoming Daniel Alexander Jones. Okay.
Woo! Oh my God, I love that. I love that so much.
You know why thank you for being here today. You know why I say you're indescribable, and I really meant it. Okay, when I was talking to you earlier. Mm-hmm. Listen to this bio, everyone. Just listen. Daniel Alexander Jones remains an unpredictable, unbound artist whose wildflower body of work is celebrated and respected by a range of communities and critics. Jones extends rich traditions of art making rooted in Black and queer histories of performance, music, literature, and civic practice. That made me laugh. First of all, let me just say something. It's all true, and that's what really freaks me out. I'm going to ask you these questions, but I have come to realize, and everybody else will today, I've given you a label. I know you don't like labels, but I've given you one. Okay. Guess what I think you are? I think you are love as art and art as love.
I love that label, so I will accept that. That's the first label I've ever accepted. You win. Thank
and
you
everybody,
so
I
much.
want
That's
you to
beautiful.
see why. Okay, so Daniel.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is because you look at gender as art, you look at queerness as art, you look at spirituality as art, you look at love as art. It's totally holistic to you. How would you self-describe?
I love
And
that
without
you
a
say,
label,
right, no, but
what's your
I love that you
purpose?
say, yes, so holistic. Without question, my purpose is love. And I think I've walked since I've been conscious with that in mind. And the reason for that, very, very simply, is I was born into a particular moment and into a particular family who were suffused with that energy that came out of the civil rights movement, a beloved community, right? Like they believed in loving your fellow human beings. So it was a foundation of my upbringing. It wasn't something you would get to later. It's like you better be there. So I think even in my earliest experiences, when I would going to school or having my first friendships or kind of going out into the world, I would just be shocked that people would be as cruel as they would be or as cold as they would be, and that they often acted in ways that were not about caring for other people. And it's not that's not to say you shouldn't do what you are called to do or go on your path, but if you're not caring for others, something was off. So I think I just understood I was somebody who liked to try to get in there so that everybody could be heard and that people could feel like at very base level, like I see who you are as a person. Like that's important to me that you exist, that you're not there to give me this thing or I get that from you first. First, we're people. So
Eh,
that's how I would describe as somebody who tries to walk that walk.
So it's always an exchange. That's
Always, always,
that. See,
always.
you hear people clapping because they understand. That's what I love about you. And let me just tell them how we met.
Please.
Can you tell them about Jemima Jones? Well, your alter
Yes.
ego, and I will
Yes.
also show. This is show and tell. Daniel gave me this album, which we will be featuring today. That
Yay,
is
there's
Joe
Joe.
Mama,
Yes.
and then this is the other side. So
That's
to
right.
explain Joe Mama and
Yeah.
how she came about, your alter ego.
Beautiful. So I call her my alter ego with an AR, and both versions work, right? But she came to me in 1995. I was working on what would be my first full length performance piece, and as part of that piece, I wanted to go back and talk about Soul Train, which many of us grew up watching, right? And but I didn't want to impersonate a singer or somebody well known. I wanted to be in that world and figure something out. And while I was doing my little note taking, this language came out, Jemima Jones. I wrote it down. I don't know where that came from. And I looked askance at it at first, but I said, okay, let's ride with this. And I started to write down the details of what I was seeing in my head. And I was seeing this very tall woman who was older than me, but not super much older than me, but who had that same energy of the divas that I grew up loving. Diana Ross, Dionne Warwick, Denise Williams, Tina Marie. Like I can go down the list of them, but where they walked in the world with a certain elegance, style, and dignity, and they were fully in their power, right? That felt important. And it just went choom. So at that time, I was roommates with Saida Arca Ecolona, who I know you also interviewed before, right?
Yes,
So
yes, Saida.
and so I opened my
Oops, I think maybe you had a little glitch. Somebody might have called you. Go ahead.
Okay, but we were living in this wild house that actually the whole house was settling. So, like, the whole floor of our apartment went like this. You could put a marble down and it would go to the other, it was like dangerous. But I went to her and I said, Sai, I think she's come. I think this person has come to me. This being has come to me. And Saida, being who she was like, let's go. So we went down, we got in her car, and we went to one of those stores they used to have back in the 90s where it was like crystals and fishnets and like and greeting cards. And them stores, right?
Yes.
And I got a wig, I got a dress, I got some stockings, I got some shoes, And we went back, I put them on, and we walked down the street in Minnesota, 11th Avenue in Minneapolis. And
I was just
there
there.
were construction workers, and I walked past with Saida, and the bulldozer went like this, and everybody jumped out, and they came and they started catcalling Joe Mama. And I said, something is happening here, because that I've never had that kind of experience before. So that's where she came from. And then very briefly, I began to understand her as a performance persona. And when I inhabited her, other things started to happen. Like it's almost like she had her own memories, her own thoughts about things. I wasn't so
Yes.
much crafting her as a character, which I have done, and we all have, like, we all know that as part of our art form. But
Yeah.
this was something else. It was like I was putting on the vestments, almost like a masked performance tradition, and then the spirit would show up in it. And so on and off since 1995, she has been a part of my work and my world. And in I'd say probably from 2010 to 2020, she was the one who had like this incredible explosion of career and moving work in the world and all of these shows and recordings. And people have developed their own relationships with her that are
Yeah,
distinct from those that they have
I
with me.
don't consider you a drag artist. I'm
Right.
sorry, I don't.
Yeah,
You
I don't
have
either. Out of no
yeah,
offense to drag. It's different. Yeah.
no offense, but there is it's you. It's like this other you, in this beautiful way. And both you and your mama radiate love. And that's another reason
Well,
that I
thank you.
said love is art and art as love.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to show a little of this new project to everyone without even talking to you until they see it, because it is so hard to
Okay.
describe. But it's called Aten. I put it in the scrolling thing there if anybody wants to look. How would you describe this? Let me tell you, I mean, to me, it's, you said, the Egyptian god, sun god. Is
Sun
that
disc.
correct?
Yes. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Sun
Mm-hmm.
disk. And
Yes.
you have dedicated songs not just to the sun, but to all the planets. And then you've aligned each planet with a person from your life that you feel represents that planet. Am I close?
Yes.
And so to me, this is performance art meets spirituality, meets science, meets everything, which is love. What is it to you
Ooh.
before I show it?
It's love. It's love. But what you just said that's so beautiful is, and I've never thought about this till you said it right now. If you go up to an artist, obviously you and I are here, but if you go up to an artist who's really an artist, and I don't mean by anybody else's estimation, I mean that's the way they identify, that's how they live, they move in the world. If you scratch them, all of what you just said pours out. We all think about this. We have philosophical thoughts, we have emotional journeys, we have physical journeys, we have relationships in our past, the distant past, the ancestors, dreaming in the future. We carry all this around. And for me, I've always believed that art can hold all of that and that we can
Yes.
have multiple points of access. So I love, I love that there you can go and you can get a ticket and you can sit down, and you can watch a show or see a film or listen to music. But I think there's so much more than fits in those boxes that is
I,
of value.
yes.
That's
And
what I want.
that is why I know you get these grants and fellowships. You're a Guggenheim Fellowship receiver. You have gotten grants from the Public Theater. Who are some of these other people that supported you in what I'm about to show?
Oh my gosh, the Doris Duke Foundation, the New England Foundation for the Arts, which was a tremendous supporter, and my home institution where I'm working right now, CalArts in LA, and their Center for New Performance, where I'll just say they're one of the institutions that's really dedicated to this kind of big, free way of working.
Right. I'm going to show everybody a little of this now. And I'm
Great.
going to, I'm sorry that I'm only going to show pieces of each one because I want I don't like to interrupt the flow of each piece, but it's important for them to see how diverse you portray both Daniel Alexander Jones and Joe Mama and how you
Thank you.
incorporate it. So I'm going to do that now, everybody. So if you go to this website, what you will see is Altar, spelled AR, number one. And I'm going to show you, you can choose your journey. You can choose the sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Moon. You will get a song and a video attached to each one. First, let's do one as Joe Mama. Which one would you like to pick first?
I would say, well, let's look at Mars. That's when she's wearing
Let's
all
look
her,
at Mars
her shiny
first.
stuff.
Here we go. Yeah, we're going to look at Mars first.
And this is very classic Joe Mama energy, I would say.
Here we go. Sorry, that's not your website. That's mine. Here we go.
Oh, it's all good.
Oh, shoot. My God. Okay, first of all,
Beautiful.
I got to give you applause. That's number one. Number two, if you go down further, what you see is you are featuring a woman that represents this energy. You give the Mars astronomy, you give the Mars astrology, and then you give a podcast kind of where you interview this person. Now, let me tell you what else I get from this, and you tell me if I'm crazy or not, okay? Mm-hmm. What I get from this, before we go to the next one, is that you also consider giving back an art. The exchange and the hearing from another person that was your inspiration for your art is part of the art. Am I correct?
Absolutely. 100%. We don't do anything alone except die. That's what we do alone. And even then, other people are responsible for what gets left behind. You know, we are not in this world alone. And beyond that, there's so much value and beauty to me in what gets shown when you show how we are connected, you know? It's like I recently got to take a beautiful tour of the Motown Museum in Detroit. I don't know if you've gotten to be there before.
No.
But if you ever go to Detroit, go to that museum. And the reason I bring it up is because you see that the reason all of those artists were so successful is that they were connected and supporting one another as they rose together. They all were a part of it. So you knew they had a common value in those early years of Motown, right? And it's that idea, like, I don't want to hide the fact that I collaborate. I want you to know all the people I collaborate with.
Yes, and like the Rhonda Ross one, which one is that?
Oh, yes. That is Earth. That is Earth.
Okay, let's look at Earth. Now you're going to see a very different thing. And what I love about all of these is they're so different. And your personality and everything you do, the music is, by the way, your vocal range changes
Yes, it does.
God, look
It
at
does. It
this.
does.
Oh my God, it's
Isn't she beautiful on those rocks?
she is so beautiful, and so are you in this. She and you are both beautiful. Look at these close-ups. Look at you. Oh my God. I love it. Okay, I'm going to show a little of all these. I have to. They're too good. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't want to. I don't want to. But look at Jupiter. When I looked at Jupiter, I was like, okay, here's another.
God, yeah.
Here's
Yeah, that's
another
one.
whole side to you. Look at you there. What?
No, I know it's a lot. It's a lot, and I can give you a story about that after.
Okay, let's just do a little of this one to show the difference between these. So funny.
Yes, Lord.
Look at you.
Yes, indeed.
Unbelievable.
Every day's a holiday.
Now that's a whole different vocal range.
When I come around,
Now you're like playing a whole other.
I'm gonna change your discord into a sweet sound.
I love it.
Okay, I got to turn around. I got to talk to you now. Now,
So
can everybody please give me like major applause? Let me hear the story about, I mean, first of all, they give you a grant and you create like 14 videos in 14 outfits with 14 characters and 14 collaborations. What's going on?
I'm a bit of a maximalist. Like, I will say that everybody, I remember one time a critic wrote about something I made. It was like, why does he put so many things in his work? And I'm like, because that's just how I am. I'm like, I'm gonna go there, right? But one of the things, the story I would tell you is one of my uncles, who was kind of like the uncle that was around the most when I was growing up. He was a brilliant, beautiful brother named Gus Jones, former boxer. Like, he was one of them, those people. Nobody messed with him because he was that guy, right? And and he used to, when I was a kid in the '70s, he had a disco. He had like a bar disco type situation. That was his local business, right? And when I was little, I would go with my dad. We would run errands, and we would go, often we would have to go pick something up for him or drop something off. And they would sit me at the bar. And shall we say, the ladies of the evening who were done with their work were there in the morning. And so everybody was chilling at the bar, swapping stories, hanging out. And I would go, and I was like the little prince sitting there among all the people. And they would make me a Shirley Temple. But I always remember the vibe of that place, and that they had that little janky stage with the mylar curtain in the corner
With
and
the
the disco ball.
Mylar.
And it reflected to me just a particular era and a particular set of people for whom that local place was their place that they went, and the local singers were the celebrities, right? And I wanted to honor that history, and we came up with this thing. And the woman in that video with me is a one of the top professors of theater in the history of the United States of America, who got to come and play, and she never gets to just put on a wig and be silly. And so we let her. I was like, come. Her name is Dr. Omeo Shun Joni L. Jones, brilliant artist and thinker. But it's also that spirit of play to me that I also like to invite. Like, if we were to do something together, I would say, what have you not gotten to do that you want to do?
See,
Can we play that way?
And Jupiter is the planet of expansiveness.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you
There it is.
align,
I'm like,
how did the idea come to align planets with people's vibes? Because it isn't
yeah,
necessarily it's not signs. You're doing
right.
planets and you're doing planetary vibes
Yes,
and you're
yes,
assigning that to a specific person. How did
yes.
you juxtapose those? How did you think of the people? How did you do that all? It
Yeah,
just came to you?
well, a lot of it I think has to do with, like you, I've been in this work for a long time and it's human work, right? So we get to know people and we get to know like, the different ways that people express themselves or don't. Like some people are very quiet and internal and they're like Neptune. They keep secrets and they have deep emotion that runs through. And then other people's are the life of they are the Jupiters. They are Mars. They're always causing a fight they're always being angry or combative or something. So I think there's some general aspects to it, but very specifically, a long time ago, I don't know if you have siblings, but I have a brother,
Oh,
and he's like 7 years younger, but most people think he's my older brother because he's really the grounded one of the two of us. And one time he was looking at me and he said, I think people are like planets. This is years and years ago. And I said, oh, really? I said, well, what kind of planet are you? And he's like, oh, everybody loves to come to my planet. It's green. It's got oceans. It's got beautiful trees and birds and fruit. He's like, it's where it's at. I love my planet. And I said, well, what about me? He's like, your planet is cold and icy. You can't even land there. If somebody tries to come there, they're gonna die. Like, and I was like, that's so cold, But that idea stuck with me. And I would ask the people who are listening today, if you had to think of yourself as a planet, what kind of planet would you be? And how might you be like one of the planets in our solar system? And so I just started to dream about that. And I think the song that probably came first for me was Pluto, because I thought about Pluto. First of all, they
I
said it was a
haven't seen
planet.
Pluto yet. Oh my
Oh
God,
God.
keep talking because I have
Okay,
not
but they were
seen.
like, Pluto is my jam. But they were like, okay, Pluto is, a planet, but then it's not a planet. It's been talked about, maligned. And I'm thinking
I
that
have
it's like
Pluto
that
sitting on my ascendant. Yes.
boom, it's so far out there and people don't pay attention to it. And I just started to think about, we all have experiences where we've been that person that gets talked about, maligned, we all the way outside. And and yet there's deep wisdom that comes from being the one that's on the outside of the circle because you see everything going on inside. So I
And
spoke to my friend, as you see there,
you picked
Langston.
Langston, a Black queer teacher and shamanic practitioner who specializes in radical human transformation, ancestral healing, and restoring an authentic relationship with our emotions. That's who you picked
That's who
for
I picked, and
Pluto.
who is all of those things, and who understands, that beautiful human being understands something about how you take that place where you might feel isolated and turn it into a power for yourself, where you can see
Wow.
and you can share. So yeah, this is
You said it
Pluto.
was forever, but you changed
I
your
love your voice there.
mind.
Oh, thank you.
Now I'm all alone in time, floating through space in a circle with no end. You said you were my friend.
Oh, I can't take it.
Sun so small at this distance, darkness seems the path of least resistance. Cast out your heart when you threw me away, but I live to see another day. Dancing bodies have your eye, but I will move you by and by. I left my trace in the depths of you,
Oh my God. Can we please?
Wait.
Please.
Thank you
I
so
can't.
much.
I want to
That's so
spend.
generous.
I only do these talks for an hour, so I really want to get your.
Okay, let's go.
Everyone's clapping. I really want to, especially by the way, my friend Sheila Ray, who's here, and she
Oh,
was one of the people on the board of the Brad Adams Foundation, and she.
oh,
Yes,
wow.
she is in the audience.
Oh,
Sheila,
how
if you
lovely.
want to say anything or ask anything, please, in the questions and answers. She's a wild fan of yours. That's
Thank
just
you.
one of the many awards you got, and that's where we saw each other last. Okay, so now I showed everybody a
Yes.
bit of the planets. I showed everybody a bit of how you actually, first of all, some of the scientific facts about the planets blew me away too. I didn't even know
Yes.
some of the stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Second of all, I want to just say we met at Soho Rep where Jemima Jones had a show, correct? What was the name of that show?
Yeah. It was at that point it was I think Radiate had happened, right? And then we were doing the gala, the big gala.
Okay, everybody listen to me carefully. This is a person who I met at the Soho Rep Gala. We connected in such a way, I can never explain it, but just like everything you're watching. And then this person was teaching at Fordham University and invited me to do something with the students, right? Some
Mm-hmm.
sort of
Mm-hmm.
collaborative thing, right?
Yes.
And had eventually got to be a full tenured professor, right? And
Mm-hmm.
left it
Yes.
all to
Left it
pursue.
all. Yeah.
Please tell us how you made that important. Because you weren't just somebody doing it for money. You put everything into those students. Everything. Please
Yeah.
talk about that
First
switch.
of all, thank you for saying that because that is partly been my activism is like, and I know obviously there's activism that's not about you're at a job. I mean, like I do, and I've come from a long tradition, as I said, of people who are connected to working with community in various ways. But I always took my work as a professor like it was activism because I said, I'm going to be the one person maybe in that room, like we've talked about today, who sees this as a human being. They may be 18, they may be 20, they may be 23, whatever. They've had a life already. They have an identity. They have deep feeling. They're dreaming of putting their heart on the line to go do this work. And in addition to that, every person who comes in there is different from the other people who come in there. So when it comes to questions like I know you and I will continue to talk around identity and queerness and class, I came from the working class. I didn't come from an elite experience. So my relationship, even as a young person, to study, I didn't have the kind of money that a lot of my peers had. So I was always, when the students would come in, I would be like, but who are you? And what do you need to learn? And what is the thing that you are really curious about? Not what I think I could tell you what I think for a mile, but what are you about here? And so I tried to meet them there. And what I will tell you with real transparency is this occurred over this major shift that we're now seeing in colleges and universities, where it got more and more corporate. There were always incredible people in the mix who were pushing back against that. And at Fordham, for example, I had two incredible deans who were like, we're going to keep moving toward freedom and keep space available for people. And I had great colleagues and I had incredible students, but I also saw this other thing happening. And I realized I was putting so much of my life force into an institution even though I was putting it into people. And I said, I have to stop putting it into that relationship. It was a very, very difficult decision to make because I also was feeling called, as we all get called when we're artists, right? To
Yes.
this new way of being. And it was like, it wouldn't let me go. And I think I resisted it for a while. because of course, first of all, having a job in period and coming from working class, because I have a lot of stuff around that money scarcity, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So the idea of being one of the few black and queer tenured people in the history of the Academy in theater, well, woo, but but then everybody was like, you can't leave that because that's the thing. And I said, no, 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 no. I have to keep going because there's something else I'm supposed to do. And I haven't, the configuration will show itself ultimately. So it was a humongous leap of faith. And it's definitely been, I've been met with a lot of grace in the journey. And there's been a lot of scary parts to the journey, but I would not change it for the world. To your point, last thing I would say, the work I did with those students, I know that work was meaningful, and I hear that from them. And I'm now of the age where I'm starting to hear back from students who thought I was a meanie or on some craziness, and they were like, "Why do you make me do this? Nobody else makes me do this," sort of thing. 10 years later, 15 years later, they come back and they're like, "I get it, and thank you." And that's the world to me. It's the
Everybody
world to me.
is loving what you're saying.
Oh,
Because
good. Okay.
I know the kind of bravery it takes to leave a tenure track position for all the reasons you said. And because you were an excellent, but on your website, you also, I think it's in one of your books, but I read that you kind of blogged. You did a blog that was dedicated to your students.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Which was so beautiful about how they live with you always, and you hope that you live with them and what you each exchanged once again with each other.
That exchange.
The exchange. So, okay, now you talked a teeny bit about your childhood. I just want to delve in a little. Where are you from? What's your where are you from? What's your family size? What's going on?
Beautiful. From Springfield, Massachusetts, which most people who aren't from Massachusetts know for the bus station and the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Right.
And I come from, in terms of the nuclear family, it was myself and my brother, my mom and my dad. My father was born in Springfield. My mom was born in a nearby town called Greenfield, but raised there. And you go back one generation, and my mom's family were all like, where they were like Yankee farmer people. And then her father had lineage that brought him back to Scotland. Actually, his family was immigrant. My father's side of the family were all from South Carolina before, they had been enslaved, but the most knowledge that I have is of going back like 6 generations in terms of South Carolina. And most of his family moved north during the Great Migration. So he was born in Springfield in 1935, but his parents had come in the late 20s, early 30s. And so they were also like that wonderful book, The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson, which talks about the Great Migration. They were that. So I grew up in a neighborhood that was largely populated by families that were from that Black Southern migrant experience. So weirdly, I'm in Springfield, Massachusetts, in a quote unquote interracial family in a predominantly Black neighborhood whose values are Southern. That was my upbringing.
Right. And it's funny. It's because my sister-in-law's in Greenfield, but I really,
oh my God.
I know it's really funny. I know,
Wow.
but I'm thinking about that now. And so like normally it's kind of seems, it's so odd for me to even focus on. I know the show's called On a Queer Day, but you have so much love in you. I don't know what happened when you quote came out, because you seem to be coming out constantly as different things. But what was the initial thing like?
Yeah, this is such a great question, and I love that you asked it. Do you want to say something else?
No, I just want to say that
okay.
If people go to your website and they look at all the videos for the different planets, you'll see all of it has such love enveloped around it and in it that I can't imagine if there was pain or what kind of pain there was. And I want to encourage people if they're going, You see what I mean? If they're going through that pain,
Right.
what happened to you?
Oh, yeah, there was tremendous pain. There still is tremendous pain. And that for me, the thing that I love that you asked this question, because when I talk about love, I don't talk about love like a Hallmark card. I don't talk about love as something that like is the relief from life. I talk about love as the choice we make every day to choose each other as living beings over all of this other destructive mess, and that it's going to hurt when you do that. It's going to be uncomfortable when you do that. You're going to be disoriented consistently when you do that. You will be shamed by other people for doing that. You will be viewed as being less intelligent, less rigorous, all that stuff for doing that. But for me, that value is it's the most important lesson I learned from anybody that raised me up. But I had a tremendous, so I just described where I came from and what I came up in, right? In my neighborhood, everything was chill. But as soon as you started going out, and I even going to elementary school, race comes in, gender expression comes in. Set once you come into your sexuality. I also started school a year earlier because you know that weird thing that sometimes happens with your birthday. Like,
Yes,
so I was always a year younger than everybody in my class. And so
right.
when they hit puberty, I was still like a little, like I didn't even know what was happening. And so I also was a year behind in all of that kind of like social stuff. I was already introverted and I was teased and bullied. And I will tell you, from the seventh grade until the end of the 10th grade, there was not one day in school that I wasn't verbally accosted and very often physically accosted for my sexuality. And I will say that to your listeners because that, the F word, so to speak, is a word I heard every day of my education, and sometimes worse, right? And again, the physical violence and the kinds of things. So when I talk about love, it's because I understand what that choice is. And the
Yes.
dilemma that I had, my friend, was I would go, like, I was in the neighborhood, and I've kind of used this example a couple times, but like, let's say there's a cat named DeAndre, right? And DeAndre is somebody I knew who lived 2 blocks down. I know
Yeah.
his mama, I know his family, I know his brothers. And then in the school,
He
he's
was different.
pulling some masculine stuff, acting like a bully or whatever. And I think I couldn't ever reconcile. But wait a minute, we know each other from there. Like, what? How? What? Da, da, da. So it was that distance that let me say, oh, people people participate in violences, homophobia, racism, etc., gender violences, and it's not always that they believe that thing, but it's that they
Right.
see what they see the power of holding that violent position, or they see it gives them safety, or it gives them a distance so they can be a bully so they don't get bullied, and all that kind of like psychological stuff that later in my life I would have language for. I had some glimmer to say something else is going on here beyond just what I think the surface is telling
But
me.
yes, that's why I'm saying you're imbued with love. Love sometimes manifests as compassion. Love sometimes manifests as other
Mm,
things. And I feel like, if it, I hate to keep going back to these videos, but the one video that I have, and
yeah,
I forgot which one it is, maybe you can help me,
sure,
is
sure.
when you're in this beautiful silver shimmery dress, kind of dancing. Do you remember which
Ooh.
one of the
Is
planets
that
is
is that
it?
Neptune where the other
It
two, and like,
yes,
and
maybe
it
it's
it's kind
Neptune.
of like a little noir look?
Yes, I want to show this. If I hope this is it,
Oh, please,
because
please.
yeah, this is the one where you said yes, she's a woman of a certain age.
Yes.
And I love that you're not trying to be campy in any way.
No.
Your music is real. It's saying
Thank you.
something, and it's a callback to a lot of different times. The 80s with the
Yes.
synthesizer stuff.
Yes.
But it's this, your hair is back. Is this the one where your hair is back?
No,
And you're
this
in a
one is
long
for
silver slinky dress?
this is a slinky dress, but it's not back. It's not that.
I'm
Which
trying to
one is
figure
that?
out
I'm
which.
trying to think of which one that is.
Wait a minute. I'm showing a little from all these. Hold on. I got to show a little of all
Okay.
these because they're so incredible as to the, look at that is so disco. I love it.
You know, we share our love for that era.
Yes, we do. But I think
But I
it
want
might
to,
be.
can I give a shout out very quickly to Nico Savignano, who is the filmmaker I worked with on these. And just to
Oh
say
yeah,
again,
this is it.
oh, the moon. Okay, now I understand that. That's quite a
Nico,
character.
say the name again so you could give the shout out.
Nico
Ni-
Savignano. And Nico is a
Beautiful.
brilliant filmmaker I work with. And just another example of the power of what happens when you collaborate with people who have skills you don't have.
This is the one about the undertow
Okay.
of the moon
Yes.
and the effect on Earth. I love this one.
Thank you.
Because she's so you think
There's not been one night since you left me that I haven't called your name. I whisper it into my palms, a prayer to keep me sane.
I love this.
Now you want to come back to me.
I can't take it. She has such beautiful moments.
Make my wish
Oh, thank you.
come true.
Your voice too.
Tell me how am I to know? Is this the undertow?
Okay, that's it. Is this the undertow?
Undertow. Yes, Lord.
The
Right?
undertow. And how the moon reacts on the earth and all this stuff. Okay, look. People are clapping. They understand what I'm trying to say and why I called you indescribable. Sheila said to me, I am not going to miss this interview because I really think that what Daniel Alexander Jones does is fantastic. Also, the founder of the Trevor Project, my friend Celeste Lacine, used to be James Lacine, sends love because they also said to me, this is a true artist that you're interviewing today, like a true artist. So I want to give you applause for that. Now,
Thank you.
I only do this for an hour, so I usually ask for the last 15 minutes. If anybody in the Q&A little button want to ask anything of Daniel, please, during this time, please ask anything you want. I have a couple of other things to ask. Are you the stylist for the costumes? Are you the arranger of the vocals? Who is your production person and where do you record? I don't know if you can remember those, but
I can. So I work with a couple designers for Jamama. In the videos that you saw, this work was styled by this brilliant artist named Victor Sandoval, who lives here in California. Most of the work I've done with Jamama has been styled by the otherworldly gifted artist in New York City, Juana Botez, who is a costume designer and designs for dance a lot. So if you go to New York theater, you've seen her work. But Jomama is very clear visually to me. So I'm always making the final choices about what she wears. And part of why Juana and I work so well together is Juana kind of zoned into who Jomama was. And whenever Juana makes a choice, it's right. I mean, but there's like Joe won't wear certain things and she will wear others. But I always do all her makeup myself. Like I've never had anybody else do her makeup. In terms of the music, so I write with a collaborator. I have had two collaborators that I've worked with. One who did my earlier work. His name is Bobby Halverson, and the person I'm working with now, who is the engine behind the production of Aten, is named Josh Quat, multi-instrumentalist, guitarist, songwriter. And so I don't have music theory. I hear things. So what I do is work with Josh in that incredible way where it's like somebody talking to, like a savant talking to the person. He somehow can take my weird descriptions where I'm like, it's like a green light comes in through the window and then it goes here and then it goes dup, 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 and then he'll turn that into music. Or I'll hear a line plus he is a brilliant and intuitive composer as well. So we collaborate like 50-50 on all the instrumental things that he then executes and records as an instrumentalist. And then I
But you're
do
singing all your own vocals. You're singing all your own
all of it.
vocals.
All my own vocals. I write all the lyric, make all the vocal melodies and all the harmonies myself as well. And I consult with Josh where and if I feel like I need opinion on, like a particular rub or something like that. But largely what I do is I work with him and then I take the music away and I listen for where the language lives. And then there was one more question you had. Production.
Yeah, production. Well, and record. Where do you record? Like, where did you record the album? This
We
album.
recorded that album in
I love that you did.
California.
Right. I love that you did this in vinyl.
Yes, I know it was like my dream. We finally got a vinyl. But I do need what I do need to do. We do it like it's kind of old school. We go away for like 2 weeks. Nothing else is happening but
Yes.
that. That's what I do with all of my projects. It's like an immersive something. I'm not good at like long whatever. I need to get into the kitchen and make it and then be done.
And
Yeah.
it's so funny because it's so reminiscent of other styles. Like you said, the Motown, it's got disco, it's got pseudo calypso reggae, which we were just
Yeah,
listening
right?
to.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
and I mean, do you say I'm thinking of a kind of a ska reggae thing here, and I'm going la 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 la. I mean, I don't want to
Like
get into your
what happens?
process.
Yeah. You know what it is it does kind of happen. Like I think of the question first, like what is the question at play, right? So like Pluto would be an example. Like the question is like we talked about, like it's a planet further away. And then I'm sitting and I'm like, okay, if Pluto were a person, they would have to be singing at that microphone. Like it would have to be a solo testimony.
And it would have
So
to be in black and white.
it would have all of it would have to be there. And so then I just remember sitting there and I said, Josh, this feels moody like this is a mood. This is not we don't start with a rhythm. We start with what is the bed of
Mood.
sound? What's the feeling that's going on here? So that's where he came up with that perfect set of chords at the opening to just go boom like that. And then I heard it and I was like, this is the thing. Like I think about all my little girlfriends who would have a breakup and they'd be like, he said he was going to do this, but then he changed his mind. And then I said, that's the first lyric. You said it was forever.
Wow.
I was a planet, but you changed your mind. Now I'm a rock. And that's how it's going to go. We're good. Like, so, so it
Okay.
becomes like a kind of personality, a story, a thing. And then what I try to do is I try to listen, but I do have, like you do, I know, I came up and I thank everything every day that I grew up in the 70s and the 80s with my
Me
parents
too.
having the 50s and the 60s. So I grew up with real music that was coming from people's lived experiences. And so I go back and I think there's always going to be a reference. I'm not a believer that there's anything new under the sun. I think you put your seasoning, your flavor on it. Like it's I want to hear how you do what you do. I want to hear how I do what I do. I don't think either of us invented music, invented the song, invented the theater. So rather than trying to be unique, like I invented it, what happens if I'm unique because of how I live it, right? And that then I'm sharing that with you and I want to hear how you lived. So I
That's
will
why I
say
wrote the song about you. His whole life is art
his
because it's
art,
in his bones. He's got overtones and undertones. He's
undertones. And can I tell you something that made me so happy with that song that you don't know? I had my mama, who passed away in 2020. Her best friend was this incredible woman that she kind of grew up with and came up with. There was, how you have like an auntie that's not by blood, but that's
that's
your
not
mama's
really
friend,
your
right?
aunt. Yeah.
Right, but that's who she was, and her nickname was Poochie. She was Karen Madison, but her nickname was Poochie. And Poochie was they both would play guitar and sing all the folk songs, Odetta and everything. That was their thing. Um, but Poochie was the only person to give me a nickname that stuck in my life, and it was Bones. And so you even not even knowing it, and that's like my secret nickname is Bones.
I just was.
There you did it.
because I said, how am I going to do this? Because even you speaking, like there's, it would never sound pretentious for me to say this in this way, but you live your life like holistically as an artist. Like I see
Yeah,
that everything is of a piece, of a whole. You don't
it is.
separate. You're not a compartmentalist,
No,
right?
I can't be. I
Yeah.
can't be. And I think, I would say the thing too is that I do live with love as my mission. And there are a lot, I have a lot of haters. It's not easy. And I think that's important to share with your audience too, because there are a lot of people for whom they think it's a put on. There are a lot of people for whom, because they're like looking for, like, well, he's got to be mean in there somewhere, and I'm like, I am a human being. I have the same emotions as every human being. But what I'm saying is, the default for most people that I know is complaint. My default
Right.
is, how do I get to love from that place? And I think and because I'm a part of a community of people who operate that way, right? Like,
Yeah.
our crew, we talk all the time. It's like, yo, it's hard to try to be the one in the room that's like, can we find a way forward? It's hard to be the one, who is asked to forgive or to bear the burden of somebody else's stuff. Um, and so there are a lot of people for whom I don't represent love, and that's fine. That
That's
I don't,
fine.
like, my mom and my dad used to say, everybody's not going to be your cup of tea, and you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, right?
That's right.
But
My
what
mother
I
used
can
to say the
say,
same thing.
because it's a real deal. But what I do know is, everything that has had meaning and value in my life, the fact that I know you in the way that we've known each other and connected, that is the evidence to me. So when I look at the evidence, the things that are magical in my life came from love. The things that broke up in my life, that didn't work in my life, that have been stresses in my life, are almost all, to an event, something I tried to use my this noggin to figure out. I tried to force to happen. I did it out of fear or anger. And so, as I've gotten now, I'm in my 50s, I'm 53, I'm in this place where I'm sitting and I'm saying, I now know enough of life to know what happens when you choose this, or this. So I got to get to choosing better. And that's a personal thing, but it does mean that there's some things I'm not going to do anymore. Some people I'm not going to work with, some institutions I'm not going to dance with. And then there are other things I've got to figure out. Well, if you're not going to do that, how are you going to make this happen? Question mark. Let's go. So that's what a lot of what's going on.
I love it. I love it. And it's that, along the way, it seems to me that, like, I was watching you watch yourself on those videos,
Oh,
and it
mm,
was joy. It
thank
was
you.
joy. You
Because
weren't like this person
we
going,
had so much fun. This was during the pandemic. We were on lockdown. We had a crew of like 4 people to do everything that you see there. We did, and we were just like pulling stuff out of the thing. We're like, does anybody have anything in their closet we could put up here? And it was that spirit of play, and everybody who was part of that process. um, Ray, who is our
yeah,
line producer, Victor, Nico, Angel, and Raphael, who were there as assistants and taking pictures, and then Nico editing, and then all the music. Everybody did this. They got paid, but they did it because of love. And I think what you
that's
feel
right.
in those videos is, everybody's in there because they're like, oh, this is cool. How could we, what did that? They leaned forward and they gave of their heart. And I think that's the medicine that's tucked up in all those songs and videos. It's a
God.
group of people who came together, collaborated in love.
Okay, everybody, do you understand why I had Daniel Alexander Jones here? Everybody's clapping.
Oh,
Dan,
thank you.
Daniel, I really mean it. I've wanted to talk to you for so long, and this is a pivot for me, as you know, too. I work in theater a lot, but I
Yeah,
really, like you, want to hear about other people and how they form their art and what their feelings are on the planet of what they want to leave us.
yes.
And that is why you and I connect. You are worth every incredible accolade. Plus, as you said, you're turning the poison into medicine of the haters.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you are doing it. And we are loving every minute of you doing it. And I just really want to thank you
I thank
for
you.
coming here today. Everybody, let's have a big round of applause for Daniel Alexander Jones.
And for
Look what they gave us for the weight bot.
Thank you.
Also, go to aten.life in the scroll. Daniel, thank you. Everybody.